You're listening to IsReal News, 3 daily briefings on the Middle East and on global developments.
From IsReal News, this is the midday briefing for Sunday, April 19th. President Donald Trump says he remains optimistic about a deal with Iran, telling Channel 12 that the concept of an agreement is already closed and that he believes there is a very good chance of completing it soon. But even as Trump projects confidence, uncertainty surrounds the next round of talks. A senior U.S. delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance, along with envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, is expected in Islamabad on Tuesday. Iran, however, has not officially confirmed that it will attend, and reports from Tehran say the regime is refusing to show up for a second round. Iranian officials are also signaling deep suspicion about the diplomatic push. According to the reports, Tehran fears Trump's optimistic language could be a deception designed to cover for a surprise American strike. That caution reflects the major gaps that still remain between the two sides. A source familiar with the negotiations says there are still significant disputes over the core issues, especially uranium enrichment and Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. At this stage, the chances of reaching even a framework agreement in the next round are said to be low. As a result, mediators from Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan are now trying to advance an interim solution, an extension of the ceasefire by another 45 to 60 days to buy more time for talks. The diplomatic tension is unfolding alongside continued military pressure. Trump held a Situation Room meeting yesterday after Iranian attacks in the Strait of Hormuz, but chose not to respond immediately. A senior American official says Trump is determined to secure an agreement that ends the war, but not at any price. At the same time, the U.S. military is continuing to prepare operational plans in case diplomacy collapses. Trump is also warning that if no deal is reached, the United States will resume the fighting with what he calls massive bombing of strategic infrastructure in Iran, including power stations and bridges. There are also conflicting reports at this hour about whether Iran will send a negotiating team at all. Iranian state media says Tehran is refusing to participate in a second round of talks with the United States. The Tasnim news agency reports that no final decision has been made as long as a naval blockade remains in place in Hormuz. A Lebanese Al Mayadeen correspondent in Islamabad says the next round is considered decisive because it would mark the peak of understandings discussed so far. But he says no date has yet been set, despite the arrival of an American delegation for preparations. There is also a report from Saudi Arabian state-owned Arabic language Al-Hadath of a preliminary agreement to transfer Iranian uranium to Pakistan. Meanwhile, the ceasefire itself is under pressure. Trump is issuing an ultimatum ahead of the deal's expiration on Wednesday, saying the agreement can come the easy way or the bombing will resume. In a separate development, Iran's new supreme leader is issuing fresh military threats against the United States and Israel during the truce. He says Iran's navy is ready to inflict new defeats on its enemies and claims the country's armed forces are standing firm despite the damage sustained in the war. Iran is also maintaining restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz, a day after the United States said its blockade of Iran-linked ships would remain fully in force. Elsewhere, the Israeli military says brigade combat teams from Nahal, the 401st, and the 215th Brigade are continuing offensive operations in southern Lebanon. The military says forces have killed more than 250 operatives, destroyed more than 405 terror sites, and located more than 1,000 weapons items in the area. It also says body cameras found on Hezbollah operatives contained propaganda footage showing preparations inside tunnels before attacks on Israeli soldiers. And in Sweden, outrage after what Israeli officials describe as an antisemitic blood libel display at a pro-Palestinian protest in Stockholm. Demonstrators marched alongside a graphic installation showing a religious Jew resembling National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, appearing to kill a Palestinian woman and tear a baby from her womb. Israel's ambassador calls it blood libel in repackaged form. Organizers defend it as free speech. In Britain, police are investigating whether Iranian proxies may be behind a series of recent attacks on Jewish sites in London. The latest incident caused smoke damage at a synagogue in Harrow, after what police say was a bottle containing an accelerant thrown through a window. It follows other attacks this week on Jewish-linked sites, including a synagogue and a former Jewish charity building. Counter-terror police say they are examining possible links to a group believed to have ties to Iran. Security has been stepped up in Jewish areas as British officials warn of a sustained campaign of violence and intimidation. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he is appalled and vows the attacks will not be tolerated. Those are the latest headlines from IsReal News.
Follow IsReal News for 3 daily briefings. Fast, factual, and to the point.